So welcome. I'm a bit like, yeah, okay. Today we will talk about possibilities, I would say more possibilities than challenges of partnership and co-production between Croatia and Belgium within film industry and gaming industry. I think that's the best description of our next discussion. So I would like to start with Xavier. Yeah, okay. Maybe the best way to start would be if you can explain a little bit to us Belgium co-production ecosystem, which is really actually hard to understand because it's very complex, which is good because there are lots of different sources of financing. There is state and regional funds, and also something that maybe can inspire Croatia in trying to find ways as Belgium tax shelter. So if you can explain a bit more about tax shelter.
Yes, of course. As you mentioned, it might look a complex situation in Belgium, but I would rather say that it's an opportunity to work together with Belgium, because we have several regions and we have several levels of funding which are actually done by several funds. First of all, the regions which are important to mention here are the Flemish-speaking part of Belgium, the French-speaking part of Belgium, and then there's the Brussels region as well. And they all have their own funds on a cultural level, but also on an economical level. And next to that, there's a federal tax incentive, let's say, which is called the tax shelter. And the interesting part about this whole situation with all those different funds and this tax incentive on a federal level is that it's possible to double dip the funding. And I don't know if everybody knows what I want to say with double dipping. It means that for every euro that you spend in Belgium, you can go to the different funds to get money for that same euro. Because, of course, for every fund, there's a spending obligation for the tax shelter as well. But the same euro you're spending in Belgium is applicable for one fund and, for example, the tax shelter. So that makes it quite interesting to co-produce with Belgium.
Lots of possibilities, I would say. Can you please explain a bit more about background logic of tax shelter? It's something as tax relief for the companies, and which I think from which can benefit audiovisual sector, but also culture. It seems something that could be inspiring for us also. Maybe Chris can also reflect on that.
Oh yes, the tax shelter system is, as I just said, a tax incentive. It's not a tax rebate. Tax rebate briefly means that the money comes from the state and they pay back the taxes that you've been spending in the country. The tax shelter system is actually a system based on, how would I say, private money from companies. And these companies, in return for their investment in film or gaming or television or documentaries, they get a fiscal advantage. So the money comes from the state, but it doesn't go directly into film production. It goes to the companies, to the private investors, and we get the money from them. So that's actually a little bit the background. And it was created 15 years ago, around 2010. And we have been benefiting from it since ever then, for national productions, but also for the co-productions. We've been able to attract a lot of projects from France, but also from the Netherlands, and also from other countries in Europe.
Chris, maybe you can also reflect on tax shelter as something that is, I would say, great benefiting.
Yeah, it seems to be working well in Belgium. It has produced the desired results of attracting outside investors who are going to invest in production through a special tax regime. And you know, Miljenka, when we looked at our proposal that should be implemented now, basically under the law, it was an attempt to really find. I can speak Croatian if you want, but I guess English is for this panel the lingua that we're using.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we looked at various models in Europe, and you know, unconvinced that we would have this sort of private investors who would be interested in taking a stake. We looked rather at essentially a tax rebate system whereby those production companies that have paid taxes over the previous 5 years would be able to get a rebate of those taxes in order to be able to invest in to develop future projects, to ensure a certain continuity. So that's a first step. I guess that if we grow and if we find that a shelter regime could be attractive because there would be investors, it's certainly something that could be looked at. It tends to work in what we were talking about before, bigger countries with a bigger investment pool, with a more diversified economy. But we certainly did look at it. We looked at models. We looked at what's done in Belgium, Italy, and a few other countries. France also, for example.
Good to know that there are some possibilities.
There are, and you know, always open to new good ideas that will deliver results. Basically, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, Chris, can you also share a bit more about Croatian involvement into gaming industry so far since 2018, and maybe possibilities to open to co-productions? I'm not so into gaming, but as I understood well, in Belgium you can also Belgium and Netherlands are co-producing among themselves in production of the video games. So main question is there something that could be done in Croatia also, and are we open to that?
Yeah, we're definitely open to it, Miljenka. The program in Croatia is just getting off the ground for supporting development and production. But the idea of attracting co-production is certainly there, and I know that my colleague Noah, who is running our program, is in contact with Belgian colleagues and colleagues elsewhere, with a view towards ultimately encouraging co-production. It's in a way, you know, the same logic that we have in the film sector. It can be very beneficial to both sides, and I think in the gaming sector it takes place in a slightly different context. I think it can be done in a way that would work for the gaming sector and is working in a number of countries, yielding results, yielding Oscars, for example, where there was co-production. We'll hear about that more later. So it's definitely an option. I think that as we grow, and hopefully as the additional funding that we need materializes through what our state secretary said this morning, which is generating more revenue from some of the gaming platforms, we will move in that direction.
Great to hear. Are there some, Mr. Debates, sorry. I know, of course. There are some, Mr. Ambassador, of course. Are there some other opportunities to open some discussion about other cultural collaboration between Croatia and Belgium, apart from film and games, and what is?
Well, the obvious answer is yes. And the original title, I think, of this panel is "What are the challenges of cooperation?" But as Xavier said, challenges are in fact also opportunities. The nice thing about cooperation between Belgium and Croatia is that we are quite different. And so that diversity is enriching and can be used in many areas. Culturally, above all, I think. We have also a different culture of work, so we can learn a lot from each other. In Belgium, we already have some differences between the north and the south of the country. It doesn't make it always easier to work in Belgium. But having been now 2 years in Croatia, I think that Croatians and Belgium would understand each other quite well, keeping in mind that there are still differences and that you have, of course, to adapt to them. I would say that Belgium has probably a longer tradition in a creative industry. We have also a very long tradition in creativity over centuries with our paintings, architecture, music as well. So that can be very beneficial to what the Croatians would like to use. While here you have a lot of talents in technology as well. So I think there is for sure complementarity between both countries, and at the same time some unity as well. What other areas? Yeah, I think that there is a lot of economic areas where we could work together. One of the economic activities here that we can find each other is pharmaceuticals, for example, biotech. These are other areas where we can find each other. But today we are here more to talk about film and gaming. I'm not a specialist neither in film nor gaming, but I think what is also important is the role of films and gaming in our societies. What do we expect from films and gaming? And we talked about it before in the conversation. There is always a risk because a risk of creating minds or influencing minds or I wouldn't say brainwashing, but with films and gaming you reach to a lot of people, a lot of young people, especially with the gaming. And I think the gaming has such a big impact on our young society that we should use it as a tool also to make people smarter and not dumber. And that's why a system, for example, like the tax shelter is quite interesting because you can attract other companies, other countries, with other companies and other finances to develop or to help developing these industries. If you depend only on the state, it will go down. Nowadays, the states don't have money. Belgium doesn't have money. Croatia doesn't have money. Europe doesn't have money. The Western world doesn't have money because we are investing for our security now. So we need to count on other sources. The tax shelter gives that possibility to find other sources of money. And if you attract other sources, you can also attract a different kind of sources. As I said, gaming can be used in education, for example. It's not only for fun. And you can educate generations with games, as you can do with films and documentaries as well. So I think that is perhaps a first idea that we have to think about. What do we want? What do we expect from this industry for our society? And there Europe is quite a nice model because our society is very diverse. I said it before as well. In fact, we are united in our diversity. Europe didn't become one single model where everyone would think the same way. No, on the contrary. In fact, in Europe, suddenly every country, even every region, understood better that they have their own specificities, that they have to defend them. And we are talking about what happened since the European integration. You can see, in fact, that the regions, even the region and the sub-regions, became more stronger defendants of their identities. Now we can use film and gaming for doing so as well.
Yes, nice, of course, and I think that we are already doing that. We are trying to do that. But there are lots of challenges in that diversity. Maybe we can talk also about that. There are some challenges in this nice tech shelter, and I think that it comes from also, it tackles the fact that there are countries that are low capacity and bigger capacity. So these opportunities that, for example, Belgium offers can be challenges in co-productions with lower capacity countries as Croatia. Maybe we can talk maybe a bit about that, about the challenges.
Yeah, the challenges, there are always challenges. The only thing with challenges is that you have to find a solution. The challenges can be they can be financial, for example. Who is taking the financial risks, but who is getting afterwards the profits? So you have to be very clear, and you need very clear agreements about that. The challenges in Belgium are probably also we heard about all the instruments that are available. The challenge is how to navigate in these systems. But then the solution, I would say, is finding the right partner. And so my recommendation in all fields is that you need to identify the right partner. Don't count on the system to help you. Try to find the people who can help you and navigate. And it's the same with academic cooperation, for example. I always say to my interlocutors, don't go to the highest level university and sign an agreement, because that agreement will disappear somewhere in a drawer. Just try to find the people, the researchers, the professors with whom you would like to work. And then from there you can continue working. I think in the film and gaming industry it's exactly the same. You need to find the people you want to work with, and then you will find all solutions for all kinds of challenges.
Thank you. To include our colleagues on Zoom and mentioning academic system, Mr. Dries, maybe you can share a bit about games education in Belgium and how it relates to local ecosystem, and maybe to share how does Croatian students can benefit and become included also maybe in Belgium ecosystem of education.
Of course. There was already mention of the three different regions in Belgium. I'm mostly from the Flemish region, where we have digital arts and entertainment, which is where I'm a lecturer at. There's also the French-speaking region, Wallonia, where there's also schools like Haute École Albert Jacquard, which also has fantastic quality when it comes to games education. When we talk about the northern region, we also have Lucas School of Arts, which also does a degree with game design. So there is some opportunities. Digital arts and entertainment focuses mostly on the technical side of things, focusing on the creation of the technical side of games, like the programming, but also how can we create the graphics, how can we make sure that the game technically works. There's also a major that we offer when it comes to game design. In the northern part of Belgium, in the Flemish region, we're rather big. We represent 1,700 students in our degree. And a lot of those students are international students. They come to Belgium, they come to Flanders for our degree because of our online presence, where we are really proud of the work that our students do. And we love to share what they do. But the question then really comes to, okay, where does that quality come from? In the sense that we've won a bunch of competitions, we've been elected best game development school in the world 3 times by the rookies. So we're doing something right. And the question is, okay, what are we doing right? I feel like there's 2 main parts to that. One, when it comes to education, there's two ways of approaching it, right? On the one hand, you've got the more academic approach, where you're focusing more on the knowledge and the R&D skills that a student has, which is very valuable when it comes to developing new technologies within your ecosystem and within the field. And on the other hand is the practical approach, the professional approach. That's one where we really focus on digital arts and entertainment, because we really believe that you need to talk to your industry, understand what they're looking for, understand what they want, understand what their quality metrics are, so that you can work together with them. especially when it comes to the output of your students, right? They need to have the skill sets that your ecosystem and the game industry as a whole expects. And only if you set that bar to the expectations that the industry will have, then you will get successful alumni that break through in the industry and get some good results. And that's really important, pushing that bar, pushing your students to a high level so that they can not only get into high-level companies, but also improve your local ecosystem. That's very important. And that's where then that ecosystem part comes in, right? So talking to the companies is one thing, but also talking to the government and making sure that ecosystem is one big cluster of organizations that talk to each other. We've got the Flemish Audiovisual Fund, we've got Flanders Game Hub, we've got the Flemish Game Association, we've got Force VC, which is a venture capital fund. We've got the Flanders Investment in Trade, which I think is really important when it comes to collaborations and co-production, for example, also with Croatia. And being part of that ecosystem, knowing the developers in the ecosystem, knowing all the people that run, like you just said, indeed, knowing all the people that run these systems and having those interpersonal relationships, also as from an organizational level, is really important. So it's those three things: making sure your quality level of your students is high and fits with the expectations from the industry, talking to your industry so that the lecturers teaching the students know what is expected and know what needs to be in there. And then last and actually very important, talking with your ecosystem, being part of your ecosystem and being integrated in the ecosystem. The worst thing I think you can do is, as an educational system, is not be integrated into the companies that you're delivering students for, because that's the whole point.
Do you already have students from Croatia, and can you give some recommendations to ones that maybe wants to study at your...
I think so. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. If I had to give a recommendation, we have a very strong community team and a very strong community organization inside of our school. So the whole point, we have a lot of internationals that come in. You basically make a very big decision in your life to go to a different country with a language you don't know, with people you don't know, maybe a culture you don't know, to go study at the school that you don't know. So having that soft landing and making sure that people are welcome and feel included is super important to us. So that whole community work that we do is a really big part of our work. So that is... that's one tip I would give, is do not be afraid, especially when you're young. When you're young, you can, you should really go for those new kinds of experiences and try things you probably never think you would try, and try them anyway. And maybe it works and maybe it fails, and both are fine. You learn something, you see some part of the world, and then you move on. And it's really important, especially when you're younger, because when you're older, you're settled, you have a family, you've got a job, and then all of that becomes way more difficult. So if you are genuinely interested in coming to study in Belgium, first of all, double check if the content of the courses are what you're looking for, right? For example, DIA is rather technical, and we're going to focus also on the implementation and the technical side of things. It's not just the art stuff or the design stuff. It's also the technical implementation. There are other schools that offer other things, so make sure that you find what you're looking for. And also, and second, and I think the most important one, reach out to us and ask questions. We are available. Our contact information can be found on our website. You've got digitalartsentertainment.be, but there's also the general school, hoes.be, that we're a part of, that also offers other degrees. But let's stick for the game development for now.
Thank you. Mr. Letz, could you please, you're coming from WAF, which is Flemish film fund, Flemish part of the Belgium. And as a Croatian Audiovisual Center, you are also supporting games production, but you're also you are co-producing with some countries. I would say that most of the co-productions are coming between from Netherlands and are based on cooperation between, if I'm not wrong, between Belgium and Netherlands. Can you share maybe how does it work? Is it open, and in which ways to creation game producers, and what are the main challenges within co-production in gaming industry?
Sure. Yeah, we're doing some co-productions with the Netherlands. It was kind of born out of a need also, because I think most co-productions they come out of necessity. So you have to look for the right talent. You have to look for money. There's a war for talent going on globally. So sometimes you just have to look outside of your borders to be able to find the right talent to create the best possible games. And then the money factor is probably the most important one, is that it's becoming harder and harder to find money for games. So the private money is really hard for the moment. During COVID, it was a lot easier, and now it's getting more and more difficult, also with publishers, but also with VC funding. And we see it's getting harder and harder, and it was also already mentioned that money from governments is getting less and less. So it's not the ideal it's not the ideal circumstances to do co-production. Now, we've been doing this with the Netherlands because they are very close by. They also speak the same language. All of those things help. It's also a priority country for us on a government level. Flanders wants to work together with the Netherlands on different levels, in different industries, including games. And that's why we started with them, actually. It's why we put the most energy in collaborating with the Netherlands. But we're also looking towards Croatia, and that's mainly because of the relationship that Noah and I have, is that we have known each other through a network of public funds. So it usually starts on a personal level, is that we saw similarities between our ecosystems. We're both small countries. We have similar needs. So I think that's important. Also in the Netherlands, they almost have no government support, so they also needed to work with us to find some budget, and we wanted to work with them for their talent. So it really has to be a win-win situation to be able to work together. But because what you see often is that you don't want people that are just looking for money to come to you, because there's no win in it for you, because you want to give your money first and foremost to your own country and to your own developers. Also, again, out of necessity, because we're not swimming in money. So it's we need to be protectionist to a certain degree. So I think it's always about looking for opportunities and talking to each other, and also creating a pipeline, because that's what's lacking for the moment in games, is that in movies and in series, it has been part of the ecosystem for a long time. Producers have ample experience in putting together co-productions, which are very complicated. So what we're doing right now at WAF for games is that we're creating a pipeline. We've created templates for contracts when it comes to IP and IP sharing. We created a context for minority and majority co-productions to make a clear distinction between those things that didn't exist actually in games. It's things that we in part took from movies and series and adapted to the realities and necessities of the games industry. So it has been, we've been doing this for several years now, and it has been a lot more complicated than we thought when we started. But I think we're slowly getting there. The only downside is that we don't have enough money. So I'm really looking towards Europe to reward collaborations between different countries, because if they don't reward collaboration, I think we will become even more and more protectionist out of necessity, because the money is going down for creation of games and movies and series. So that's kind of a call for help. Is that we need Europe to step in.
Yeah, very interesting. I was always considering games as very commercial sectors. So now I'm realizing actually that gaming part, which is oriented toward maybe socially aware topics, this situation is same as in film. So, Chris.
Yes.
Hey, Miljenka.
We have a lot of challenges all around us. What is happening on European level? What are the main discussions about? Because in film, this is the only way to produce, in collaborating. How does it work in gaming? Now, I think the system is almost the same, and the challenges are same. So
very similar challenges. I think at the European level, I hope there's a much greater awareness now in the Commission, at least, that what is done in the cultural sector, whether it's film and gaming, is not only a matter of helping those sectors. It's a matter of the identity of Europe. It's a matter of providing an alternative to the domination by American films and cinemas. It's about democracy, values, soft power in the end. And I think there is finally an awareness of the importance of Europe to position itself as the real player that it should be with its population and its richness. We see that the media program with which you're familiar and the gaming sector has been a part of more recently is something that's being looked at in Brussels as a proposal for the next 7-year program of funding. And, it's got a new name now. It's going to be called Agora EU. That will include Media Plus and some related activities, so there's a merger of activities. The idea is, at the Commission level, to create a program that also recognizes the communication, the messaging value of what's being created. Now, what we're afraid of is that the money at the European level will not grow for the Media Plus program, whether it's for audiovisual or for gaming. And that's something that we are going to be lobbying on to not just keep up with inflation over the next 6-7 years, but to grow the envelope for the media program using the arguments of the importance of that cultural cooperation and the identity that we're trying to promote. So there is more money for the gaming sector. It's clear that the Commission, at the very highest levels, sees in the gaming sector a potential to improve European competitiveness. Competitiveness is kind of a buzzword now in Brussels. And they very much like the idea of what we're talking about here in this blend program, the synergies between the gaming sector and the film sector. And so that's something that needs to be emphasized even more in the future. And I think that's something that will be supported more intensely at the Brussels level, especially because it's seen to offer potential to also incentivize use of new technologies and artificial intelligence in production. So there's hope, but there are also some real challenges because of the same reasons why film funds are seeing less and less, or more and more pressure on their budgets in some countries. It's about having to use a lot of resources now for military defense purposes, unfortunately.
But maybe you can elaborate a bit more on Agora, because there's lots of concerns that new media program will cut on the funding for independent production, and because of that competitiveness, open more to the streamers, to the more commercial production of the games and also film. So what is behind?
Yeah, I mean, there are concerns. I alluded to some of them just a moment ago, but we don't know the details yet. We know the framework that's being established, but how much of the current media program as we know it will be replicated in the future, starting from 2027, when Agora comes in stream, is a big question. We want continuity. We want to continue to be able to rely on the media program that we know. And, you know, I think at least all of the film centers of Europe, and I work closely with the film centers, as you know, are pushing in that direction. We will push the Commission to be clear on what they're doing, and you know, we will also be very actively engaged in the member states and in Parliament. It's a major lobbying effort that will go on over the next couple of years. I wish I could say to you, don't worry, everything's good. Don't worry too much, because there are efforts being made, but until we see the details, we can't rest on the assurance that life will continue as we know it now. There are pressures for change, and the whole idea that a media program that is meant to support independent European production, let's use that as a description, also European independent festivals and so forth, but cinema could open itself up to the majors is a big problem, because the resources aren't going to grow enough to allow for not just the participation of our independent sector, but also of the majors, who are collectively bigger than all of us together. So, you know, that has to be stopped. I mean, they cannot open that funding up to the media program funding up to non-independent production. I don't think they will, but you never know, because it's competitiveness. You know, in the end, what is being confused a little bit is that you have also a program within media that has existed, which is called Media Invest, which is an attempt to leverage private money and private investors with public funds. And that is something that's geared towards bigger players whose funds can provide more money for the production, to be able to team up with private banks and investors to be able to grow a competitive European industry. But that's been there, it's going to stay there. And there you could see some partnerships with private players like Netflix also investing. It's called Media Invest. It was introduced in the last commission, when the commissioner was a very active French commissioner who believed in the audiovisual sector, but also wanted to grow competitive European players.
Thank you. We'll see. Do we have any questions from the audience, maybe? We have only 2 minutes left. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm working between London with, I'm Jörg Tittel, hello everyone, in Belgium. And I'm working with a wonderful team in Mons, actually, on a game right now. So it's between the UK and Belgium. We're accessing tax shelter funding, hopefully it all goes well. You know, with all the money drying up, is there an argument for loosening some of the local, sort of very protective tax shelter laws, etc., where, you know, international cooperation is essential? For instance, the tax shelter laws make it, you know, so, you know, the Belgian producer needs to have a certain percentage, if not a majority percentage, etc. But in a scenario right now where jobs are drying up, even being lost en masse, should we find a way to incentivize international cooperation through making these tax shelter systems and stuff a little bit less rigid, a little bit less box ticky, and allowing, you know, the money to flow more easily? That's my question.
Xavier, maybe you can help us on that one.
Maybe in short, of course, tax shelter was installed and is governed by administration, so it's not that simple to make changes. But the good part is that there's a lot of communication between our producers association and the administration, so they really listen up. And for example, the tax shelter for gaming is different than from the tax shelter for filmmaking. Without being too much technical, all the spending in Europe is eligible for the Belgian tax shelter, where for film and television, it's only the Belgian spending. So they are really listening to what producers and what individuals are saying, but it's an administration, and it's normal that it doesn't go as fast as we want.
But it gets more complicated then when we are working as the UK. Of course, we are the strange one that left the EU. You know, then we of course we have the very dynamic Asian market. You know, if there was a collaboration, for instance, with an Asian country and Belgium, then suddenly the tax shelter system requires a certain percentage of copyright and other stuff to be in Belgium in order to access the tax shelter. So then Asia will just go, well, we'll just do cheap labor on our side. Why do we need to work with Belgian talent if they're being so rigid about their ownership of the project on the back end? I'm saying, like, international cooperation is great within Europe, but also internationally, especially with America being less and less of a reliable partner, do we need to find ways to be a bit more flexible?
Well, it's a public instrument, so it also has its strings to politics, and they want to protect the European IP towards non-European companies, and I think that is the basis of the rules that they installed, and I don't think that they will change it quite quickly.
Maybe if I can jump in, is that we do try every day to make those things more simple, and also to explain why those things should exist and how you can be more flexible, and it can also be beneficial to Europe. It's like if people from Asia or from the States, especially now, because they will try to outsource a lot of things to Europe because of the new rules that Trump just imposed on foreign employees. So I think we should look at those rules and see how we can benefit as Europe. Because if people from the States, if they want to have things done by us, that's fine. That creates employment. Vice versa, if their talent wants to work on our IP, we should also be able to compensate them to enrich our IPs. And then you should look at the long-term return and not only at the short-term return. But to do those things, you should really be able to grasp how games work. And I think sometimes that knowledge is lacking, and then the rules and the terms and conditions don't really follow how the world works. And I agree it takes time, but be assured, rest assured, we're trying to adapt things from the inside.
Thank you.
If I can just add something to that. In fact, you touch upon the question of deepening Europe, because there is no fiscal union at this moment. And if we want to have a tax shelter at European level, we should have a fiscal union. So far, in fact, what we have is European countries competing against each other, which is, I would plea for deepening Europe, but you can see these days that, politically speaking, it's difficult. And there is no general willingness to bring everything at a European level. On the contrary, there is a tendency to retain more at the level of sovereign states. So, yeah, I hear you very well, and I think that we should convince our political leaders of the highest level to try to, as much as possible, bring these things also at European level. The same happens in other industries as well. You know, it's always for the corporate tax rates, for example, it's always a competition. At a certain moment, the small member states of the European Union could attract Apple headquarters thanks to its corporate tax rates. We have a neighbor north of us who is quite aggressive, also attracting big corporations with a better tax rate. So if we don't have a fiscal union, we will still be scattered and we will compete among ourselves.
Our time is up, so I have to stop this very interesting discussion at this point with this little bit depressing situation. but
Challenging.
challenging, yes.
Less opportunity.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for your thoughts and insights in your systems, and thank you for listening to us.